welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton, and on this episode, we're going to talk about Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, and the rookies in the AFC South that are heading to rookie mini camp. Yeah, it's about that time to get everything started when it comes to the rookies. We're going to talk about a few different things I want to talk about there in terms of Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Tyler Warren, Jayden Higgins, and other rookies in the AFC South and more in just a second. But up first on this episode, we're going to do like we always do, and we're going to do the Get It Off Your Chest segment. Now, the Get It Off Your Chest segment on this episode, we're going to talk about Mr. Justin Tucker. Now, Justin Tucker got released from the Baltimore Ravens, and of course, you know that if you've been hiding under a rock, the whole situation going on with him, and the allegations of things he done at masseuse parlors and things like that. Apparently the Ravens never addressed any of it, and of course they put this statement out today when they released him. I'm gonna read it to you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to read it to you real quickly. Let me take this down. Okay. All right. It says sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this is one of those instances. Considering our current roster, we have made the tough decision to release Justin Tucker. Justin uh, created many significant and unforgettable moments in Ravens history. His reliability, focus, drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the best kickers for over a decade. We're grateful for Justin's many contributions while playing for the Ravens. We sincerely wish him and his family the very best in the next chapter of their lives. This was from Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Baltimore Ravens, Eric Costa. While I totally understand this statement in terms of, you're bidding goodbye to somebody, it seems very, very weird. Let me explain. It seems weird because you never addressed the accusations with Justin Tucker the entire time he had this whole thing going on. You never really addressed it, and that just seems weird when it comes to the Ravens. So now you put this statement out after you release him. Now you did draft a kicker in the sixth round, and there's video floating out there of him kicking a 75-yarder. By the way, if you want to look that up. But getting back to Justin Tucker, you make it seem like you're just releasing him because he didn't play well last season, you know, which is true. He didn't really play up to the standard that you used to see from Justin Tucker. However, you never really addressed the issues he had going on when it came to the allegations. You never really addressed those or talked about it. You made it seem like this guy's just retiring or moving on, and it's hard to break up with somebody. Things like which I understand it's hard to break up with a kicker you've had for over a decade. However, this statement after you said nothing about the issues he had going on, it seems like you're trying to skip right over it, but instead you made the issue much, much worse. In my opinion, you could have saved this statement. I totally understand you want to say goodbye to Justin Tucker, but you could have saved the statement because you never said anything about him when he was actually going through, during the accusations. He's still going through them. You never said anything about anything when it came to the accusations, and that's disappointing. Very, very disappointing. I'm pretty sure it's very disappointing to all the women that have accused him as well. That to me, it just this statement is almost like you're trying to put it off on something else, but it's squarely putting the target still back on you as the Baltimore Ravens organization. So that's just my thoughts. That's the Get Off Your Chest segment for this episode. Boy, oh boy, wish I didn't really have to talk about stuff like that, but you have to address the elephants in the room. You do. Speaking of, well, I would say this: he's not an elephant in the room, but he is a gazelle in the room, and how he's able to move across the field. That would be Mr. Travis Hunter. Yes, he's headed to his first camp in Jacksonville. where they yell Duval. Yeah, he's going to his first camp. Of course, it mentioned in his press conference, in the previous press conference, was his role on the team. Uh, Liam Cohen, head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, mentioned that he would be playing wide receiver and kind of matriculating him in on the defensive side of the ball. I heard this. I understand what he's trying to say, but I totally don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all. I think he should be a cornerback playing wide receiver, not a wide receiver that plays cornerback. Yes, I know Troy Brown did this all the way going up to a Super Bowl for the New England Patriots, but Troy Brown wasn't the same Troy Brown he was at his heights, where Travis Hunter is probably going to be. No, it just wasn't. And to me, I just think it's backwards because you're throwing a guy in. Basically, it's been playing wide receiver. You're going to throw him in certain, types of situations. The playbook is going to be skinnier for him in terms of what he can do defensively, because he's not going to be comfortable with probably every single thing because he's probably hadn't had enough practice at it. So it's going to be interesting. It'll probably be more zone stuff, things like that. And once he's been out there for a while playing defensive back, there's going to be teams that have picked this stuff up. There's going to be teams that have found out that, hey, when he comes out, they're going to be in this zone, or they're going to be in zone on this side, man on this side, or they're going to do this or that. Do I expect them to put him in a ton of man when he comes to the game? No, I don't expect them to put him in a ton of man because, what if he's in the slot and he has a crossing pattern he has to cover? He's just basically running track at that point because essentially he's not going to catch that guy's upward shoulder. It'd be a great effort if he did, but a lot of times even with the best cornerbacks, you're not going to catch their upfield shoulder or be able to undercut that one a lot of times. And just to me, you know, you're running backwards as a defensive back. Wide receiver, you're in forwards. So I think I would much rather him play a defensive back, then come over and play wide receiver, kind of get you up with that jolt of energy offensively. Than the way that they're going to do it. I mean, honestly, it just limited coverage that he's going to be able to do. I mean, even though I know he's a very very smart individual, but limited coverage he's going to be able to do. He's not going to be able to do all the different things defensively that he probably would want to do, especially in the first year. But we'll see what happens. Just in my opinion, he should be a defensive back first, a cornerback first, then a wide receiver, and not the other way around. But, you know, that's Jacksonville's decision, and that's what they have decided to do. What we've decided to do is take a commercial break. All right, we'll be right back. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a little Cam Ward and the Tennessee Titans on touring the AFC South.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off all these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get this the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, we're going to talk a little Cam Ward. Yes, Cam Ward, number one overall pick, seen pictured here with Mr. Warren Moon. Of course, he was there at the initial press conference for Cam Ward. I found that very, very cool to be at, and it was a very, very warm reception between both gentlemen toward each other, and the passing of the number one to Cam Ward. And another thing I picked up in that press conference is Cam Ward is very cool, calm, collected, measured when he speaks to media. I would say he's a confident individual, as you've seen in the tapes and things like that that you see out there. But he also is one that is very calm and confident, not very loud with it, as you would say. And that confidence comes from being able to pick up many different systems over his time of playing, from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami and now to the NFL and the Tennessee Titans. So, a lot of people have talked about the systems, but I think, the level of success and the level of comfortability that he's going to have playing quarterback for the Tennessee Titans all depends upon how quickly he's able to pick up everything with the Tennessee Titans. Coach Callahan, Brian Callahan, is a guy that has coached a lot of talented quarterbacks. More recently, he has coached Joe Burrow. So with that being said, I mean he's a guy that definitely knows how to develop quarterbacks, and I know Cam Ward is a guy that can pick up things pretty quickly. So it's just going to be a matter of how quickly can he pick up things, how quickly can he understand the different nuances of the offense of Brian Callahan to make this offense the best it can be. But of course, Cam Ward can't do this by himself. He does have veteran wide receivers in Tyler Lockett and and Calvin Ridley. But he does also have two rookie wide receivers that the Titans drafted. One of those guys is Chimere DK. He is a 4.3 speedster from Florida. He was their lead wide receiver. Made a lot of big plays. I would say he's going to be interesting to watch and see how he develops, along with Alec Ailmanor. He is another wide receiver. He is from the University of Stanford, or he's from Stanford. I just say Stanford anyway. He's from Stanford, and for those that don't remember who this guy is, just look up the game where Travis Hunter gave up 294 yards receiving. Yes, he was that wide receiver that did that. So these two young guys are very talented. They have a ton of ability. It's just a matter of how soon can they develop, how quickly can they develop. Now, as far as Ward, like I mentioned, he does have two veteran weapons. I'll throw in there Van Jefferson if he's able to kind of crack that top five. But I believe these two young guys can do some things for Cam Ward. And, the two things they have to work on is, of course, getting comfortable in the Titans offense and knowing the nuances there, not only in the offense, but in the NFL in general. Things are a little quicker and your open is a little bit less. So they have to get used to that. And also getting used to the football that Cam Ward throws. Now, I failed to mention that they have not named Cam Ward the starting quarterback. The Titans have. They're talking about, of course, splitting reps and different things like that with Will Levis. But I'm assuming, and I'm going to think in my mind that Cam Ward will end up being the starting quarterback. So I'm just going to assume that the two rookies, El Manor and DK, are going to have to build rapport with Cam Ward, so that way they can know where each other's going to be on the field. A little different coverages, a little different adjustments, routes, things like that and so on and so forth. They'll get those things down as they continue to understand the offense and as they build in that way. The better and the more they're able to do that, the quicker this offense will be able to be ready, or I should say, be ready to take that next step. Um, and it'll be interesting to watch because I mean, both of these guys are very talented. It's just a matter of how quickly do they get it, or how quickly do they not get it. That will go a long way to seeing how this offense will develop or not develop. We'll see what happens. But of course, another thing we're waiting to see what happens is that would be the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Indianapolis Colts are definitely, on cloud nine right now because they found their tight end, Mr. Tyler Warren. Now, Tyler Warren, if you saw this guy, I mean, he just reminds you of just a rough and tumble tight end. He can block very physical there. He can also uh, he also is a guy that can, get out in the open field. He can, run you over, stiff arm you, beat you down the field. He also can throw the football. And with all the different many talents that he has, I know the Colts fans are like, yes, thank you for giving us Tyler Warren, because if you have not noticed over the years, the Colts have been trying to get a tight end. There was Jelani Woods, there was Colin Granson, there was Will Mallory, Mo Ali Cox, Alec Ogletree. The list goes on of the many, 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 many tight ends that the Colts tried to acquire, tried to grow, tried to make them be their starting tight end of the future. And unfortunately for them, it never worked out those times. But there's hope for Tyler Warren that he will be the guy. And looking at his game tape and all the things he has done, I would believe he can definitely be that guy. But, of course, the big thing is going to be who's throwing him the football. Two of those guys that compete for that, that would be Anthony Richardson, and that would also be Daniel Jones. Now, both of these guys are on different trajectories right now. I mean, they're different trajectories, but the same mission. Daniel Jones was the starter in the New York Giants, lost that job, got cut, then got traded. Oh, I'm sorry, got cut, signed with Minnesota Vikings, now signing with the Indianapolis Colts. He's trying to resurrect his career. He's trying to prove that he is a starter in the NFL. When it comes to Anthony Richardson, he's trying to prove that he's a starter in the NFL. However, it's been a lot of rough and tumble things that have happened when it came to the things that he's done in in Indianapolis. I mean, of course, the tapping out, tapping on the head. Everyone talks about that. You don't hear people talking about the incredible throw he had, stumbling, falling backwards, getting hit in the face, but was on the money to Alec Pierce way down the field, like almost 60 yards down the field. That's the incredible talent that Anthony Richardson has. Unfortunately, he just doesn't always show it. And that is where we have the problem. And that is also where we have the problem when it comes to Daniel Jones. That's where Tyler Warren, hopefully, they can be able to both, one of them be consistent and get this man the football. Because when he gets the football in his hands, some magical things can happen. We'll see what happens. But of course, you got Tyler Warren, and thing also that he has to do is have to adjust to the defense, the new offense as well, which that's a big thing for all rookies. I'm pointing that out for a lot of the rookies, but they all have to adjust and get used to new offenses and pick up the different nuances. And like I mentioned with the wide receivers, the new wide receivers for the Titans, they have to get used to what's open and what's not open. Uh, Basically, open is a small window in the NFL compared to what it was in college. So that's one thing Tyler Warren's going to have to get used to, which I'm pretty sure he'll be fine once he makes that adjustment. But yeah, that's definitely going to be something to watch, something to keep up with, how he adjusts, and then also the quarterback position there. And of course, speaking of the quarterback position, I do have to mention they did draft Riley Leonard, seventh round draft pick out of Notre Dame. Now, if you look at the quarterback situation again, you wouldn't expect Riley Leonard to factor in. You basically don't want him to factor in to this equation, because if he does, that means that both the other quarterbacks, neither one of them is either one healthy or two isn't doing the job. But let's just say he has to compete for the job. Biggest thing for him is to get in that playbook, learn the playbook, learn the nuances, listen to Shane Steichen talk, ask him questions, do all those different things so you know the playbook in and out. So if you do get an opportunity to step in there, you already know what's going on, you already know the reads, you already know the little nuances, and you're good to go. However, I will tell you, knowing it and actually doing it is a total different thing. So, Riley Leonard is a talented guy. He can run the football some. I'm not saying he's out here just, Michael Vick, or any of those type of players. No, he just runs the football and he also throws the football. but he definitely has to first stick when it comes to staying in Indianapolis. So we'll see what happens when it comes to that. We'll also see what happens when it comes to the Houston Texans, which we're going to talk about next after we come back from this commercial break on touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the break, we got to talk about these Houston Texans. And of course, with the Houston Texans, they did pick up a wide receiver. I would say not in the first round, since they traded out, but in the second round, that would be Mr. Jayden Higgins, the 6'4", 216-pound wide receiver from Iowa State. Definitely is one to watch. He's specifically one to watch because looking at their wide receiver room, they lost Stephon Diggs. He tore his ACL, but then, of course, signed this offseason with the New England Patriots. And they also lost Tank Dell. Tank Dell, second straight season with a serious injury. And there's basically talk that he's going to probably miss most, if not all, of the 2025 season as he tries to come back from yet another devastating leg injury. So while he's not there, they're expecting Jayden Higgins to step in. Now, per Cecil Shorts III, who is a former Jaguars and Texans wide receiver. He's a 6'4" guy, Higgins, but he runs routes like he's a small guy, like he's like a 6-foot guy. Gets in and out of his breaks really well, knows how to use his body, and that is a great combination with this offense as well. Because C.J. Stroud can definitely find you, provided of course he gets time. But definitely another compliment to Nico Collins, which Nico Collins is a 6'4" guy himself. So you got two 6'4" wide receivers out there on both sides. That could be nasty, depending on how quickly Higgins picks up the offense. Because if he picks up the offense well, then that makes them even more dangerous with the amount of weapons that they have. Then you throw Christian Kirk in the slot or John Mechie, whichever that may be. You've got a lot of different weapons, a lot of things you can do. And the offense still has a level of explosiveness, a level of competency in terms of the wide receiver room. However, if Jayden Higgins does not pick up the offense as well as they think he does, he would. You're going with Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, maybe John Mechie, maybe Higgins throwing in some from time to time, but that's not as good as what they could be. So that's one thing to watch is how quickly he picks up the offense, how he's able to kind of do a few things and make some big plays like he did at Iowa State while he was there. If he's able to do that, then that's a big thing for the Houston Texans. Of course, he has to earn the trust of C.J. Stroud along the way. If he doesn't earn the trust of C.J. Stroud, then there's going to be no passes thrown his way anyway. So we'll see what happens when it comes to that, when it comes to Jayden Higgins. And, another thing while I'm thinking about it, the Houston Texans only drafted one offensive lineman. I know you probably heard me say this many numerous times. They only drafted one offensive lineman. And in drafting that one offensive lineman, he's probably going to factor into this offensive line, with Cam Ward, who's a former Jaguar, former Minnesota Viking, and also Lakin Tomlinson, who's a well-traveled veteran as well. So, you know, the rookie could push him, and he could mess around and beat out Cam Robinson. However, I don't think it's going to happen to begin the season. It's just interesting. Hopefully for the Texans, this line holds up. If it does not hold up, then we could see C.J. Stroud running around like he's, on the 4x1 team, and that speed. That speed you have when you're running from a loose dog in the neighborhood. That's the kind of speed CJ Stroud's going to probably be showing off if he's not able to get adequate protection. So, I mean, we'll see what happens when it comes to the Texans. But yeah, we wrapped it up. We talked about Travis Hunter, talked about Cam Ward and his rookie wide receivers, talked about Tyler Warren with the Colts, and we've talked about Jayden Higgins with the Houston Texans. And that is the end of our show. I want to thank you all for tuning into this episode. My name is Mike Patton. You can find me on the Artist Woman on Twitter at Mike Patton82. That's MikePatton82. You can also find me on Instagram and threads at that's THA, not THE underscore general underscore MP. Touring the AFC South, you can find on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. And we are also on YouTube at the Mike Patton Network. Go ahead and subscribe. Click the bell so you don't miss any episodes. Of course, comment, and share, share, share. I thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. We are out. Peace.